Hey y'all, thanks for listening. Appreciate it if you do listen to any part of this. Obviously, it's really long. I don't expect anybody to listen to all this. I wouldn't either. So I talk about the Yankees until about 36 minutes in, and then I talk about the Hawks and Cyclones basketball until about 56 minutes. And then after that, about the 56-minute mark, I talk about Briarcliff baseball. So those are the topics for today. I figured I'd let you know before you got into it so you didn't have to click around. But thanks for listening. If you do, I really appreciate it. I know it's probably not easy to listen to me ramble about stuff. Anyway, thanks a lot. Out a bit. I did really want to make one right before spring training started, but I didn't get around to it. So here I am for all of my 4 fans. I'm back recording a new one. This segment will be the Yankee segment of the podcast. I'll try not to take too long on it, but it's been a while. And I got some topics to cover a little bit. So get ready to listen to some terrific rambling about the Yankees. Now, Yankee spring training, there's basically been 2 big storylines so far. It's the young kids who are balling out, playing great, just tearing the cover off the baseball. And then it's injuries is the other one, sadly. And that's really the nightmare scenario for any spring training, is if your main headline in spring training is all the injuries your team is racking up. And it started really with our catchers, and our catcher depth just got depleted before spring training even started. Ben Rortvedt, poor guy, just can't seem to stay healthy since getting traded over to the Yankees. Seemingly kind of typical with many Yankee trades over the year. But, it's pretty tough for him. I think the Yankees saw him as a key piece, a key catcher in the future for him when they made that trade. I think maybe they valued him just as big a part of that trade as IKF and Josh Donaldson, because it did trade Gary Sanchez in that trade last year, that infamous trade now. I could do a podcast looking back at some of these trades about a year later, but I'm not going to do that right now. But Rortvedt, had, it's kind of a scary, it's like a blood clot or something. It was something scary, talking about amputation and stuff. Some really tough stuff that guy's going through. Hopefully one day he can make it through all that, stay healthy, come up and make a big impact for the Yankees. But, at the time, it didn't seem like that big a deal because, no, not downgrading or downplaying his injury, but we still have Higashioka and Jose Trevino, right? But then Higgy decided he's going to play in the World Baseball Classic, and, more power to him. It's a great opportunity, great experience, I'm sure. Go ahead and do it. So that was one of our main catchers, obviously, not going to be around for spring training, especially with the new pitch clock rules and everything. But he's playing for the Baseball Classic. And then Austin Wells, our top catching prospect, he's gone down with an injury this spring. That's going to keep him out until May or something. So this could have been a really great time for Rortvedt and Austin Wells to shine, with Higgy electing to go to the World Baseball Classic. And, as it turns out, they both get hurt, and it's really too bad for them. So we have a couple guys who have actually played pretty well. Carlos Narvaez and Rodolfo Duran have come in as non-roster invitees and helped catch the pitching staff and play a lot of innings at catcher so far this spring, alongside Jose Trevino. And then just news broke either this morning or yesterday. I can't really remember exactly which, but now Trevino is going to be out for a few weeks. They say it might just be a week, but it's like, my goodness, the things are just racking up. So hopefully it's just a precautionary thing. Well, it's like, man, it just keeps getting worse and worse as spring training's gotten along. Obviously the catcher injuries, and then the big blow, obviously, Carlos Rodon. 2 big blows, I should say. Carlos Rodon going down with the injury, the forearm strain, made a lot of people nervous because that usually in pitchers a forearm strain ends up getting linked and eventually becomes Tommy John surgery. Sounds like it's not that, but who knows? I'm not going to put all my eggs in the basket that it's not going to be really serious, so I'm just kind of prepared for anything so I don't get hit like a ton of bricks in case he's out for much longer, because right now they're saying he's going to be out even like if it's just a forearm strain. I mean, he's probably out until late April, maybe May, because he's going to have to, after he comes back, he's going to have to build back up and probably make some rehab starts or something. So by the time he makes the MLB roster, might not be till May. And then the other big blow, Harrison Bader, oblique strain. My goodness, why? and they're saying 8 weeks, like, minimum for that. So, 6 to 8 weeks. So we probably won't see him till June, maybe now. Because, with the oblique strain, he's going to have some rehab at bats and build back up and go a couple rehab games at least. He's our center fielder. He's a fast guy. He's got to be out there moving around, all that, man. So obviously our roster before these injuries seemed crowded. We're particularly thin on outfielders, so we picked up a couple non-roster invitees on minor league deals with Rafael Ortega and Willie Calhoun. And they've actually played pretty well this spring. And I'm not going to be really mad about us carrying either of those guys into our opening day roster, because I'm pretty darn sure they can give you what Hicks is or more for much cheaper. And I would love if Aaron Hicks would just turn back the clock and be the player he was in 2018, but I'm pretty sure we're never going to see that again, which is too bad for him. And gosh, all of his quotes just sound like a sad sack every single time he talks to the media. It's like, dude, you came out of spring training last year I'm gonna be a 30-30 player this year. I got that potential in me. And then, I don't know, he hit 6 home runs and stole 3 bases. I could definitely be off in the numbers. That's just off the top of my head. So maybe that's why he wasn't making any big proclamations this spring. But, all this talk, Josh Donaldson, he's going to start at third base. End of the day. Is our line, and he did hit a home run yesterday, by the way, which is great. A lot of Yankees hit a home run. LeMahieu hit a home run, and Donaldson hit a home run. I want to say, one of our youngsters, we'll get to that in a second, hit a home run. But the injuries, you would think, would make a crowded roster more clear, but it really doesn't. The infield for the Yankees is still crowded as heck. You got Oswald Peraza and IKF at shortstop. You got Josh Donaldson at third. You got Gleyber Torres at second. You got DJ LeMahieu, who can play anywhere, which helps. You got Oswaldo Cabrera, who can play anywhere, but the good thing about Cabrera is he can excel in the outfield. So he's probably going to be mainly out there. And then, Rizzo's your first baseman, obviously. But, man, I'm really even more interested. I could definitely see the Yankees with their current roster, especially the way I know last year was different circumstances with the buyout and a shortened spring training. Sorry, not a buyout, the collective bargaining agreement. Lockout is what I meant to say. But I mean, last year the Yankees treated like the first 3 weeks of the season as like extended spring training. I wouldn't be surprised if they basically did that again. I mean, without Rodon in our rotation, of course, Montas. I guess that's another injury I didn't talk about, but that was way back. I mean, I may have talked about that on my last podcast about the Yankees potentially. I may have done that. But if he does pitch this year, won't be until the end of the season. He's going to start throwing in May. So, I mean, throw for a month, rehab like bullpens and simulated games for a month, and then rehab starts for a month. Maybe he's back in middle of August, best case scenario. It'd be nice to see what a healthy Frankie Montas can do for our rotation. Like, if best case scenario, obviously, we head into the playoffs. Oh, gosh. Forgot about Nestor's injury. That's a weird one, though. I'll get to that in a second. But, I mean, if best case scenario, we head into the playoffs with Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez, Luis Severino, and Frankie Montas as our rotation. And I would assume, Sevy and Montas would be kind of like part of our bullpen in the playoffs. That's nasty. That's phenomenal. And I'm high on Severino. He's kind of had a rough spring, but I love his stuff, of course, but like his demeanor on the mound, his presence on the mound is electric, and I'm really, really just hoping. I'm really high on Sevy this year. And then we got Nestor's injury, which was just weird, to me, because they had his little Phantom IL stint last season, because he was getting up there in innings and he hasn't pitched that many innings before. And they put him on the 10-day IL, and I think it was early September. And I was like, well, clearly that was a Phantom IL. And I feel like this little thing that he's doing now, I'm sure. So it said he tweaked his hamstring or pulled his hamstring or something. And obviously hamstring injuries are very tricky. Same thing with any like large muscle injury. Hamstring, oblique, lat, calf, quad. Like those strains are tricky. And hamstrings, especially as a pitcher, are really tricky. So he was about to go pitch in the WBC, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes out with this hamstring injury, which, yes, obviously, injuries can happen out of nowhere. And then they're like, he might be ready for opening day. But then, like, a week later, they're saying, yeah, he's probably going to be our number 5 starter to open up the season. So I was like, okay. So he goes from might being ready to opening day. And then the week after that, he's already thrown off the mound. So I really want to think that they just didn't want him pitching in the WBC because, obviously that's not our manager over there, and they might use him in a way they don't want Nestor to be used or use him too much. So they shut him. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he did tweak his hamstring. I'm sure that is true. So I'm hoping it's nothing. He's healthy to start the year because we need him big time right now. Garrett Cole looks great this spring. Sevy has been struggling this spring, but I'm not going to put too much stock into that. I'm telling you, I'm high on Sevy. He's going to have a big year for us. And hopefully we get Rodon back by May, best case scenario, I think, with him. And honestly, if he's going to have Tommy John, like if it did happen, now we haven't heard anything yet, and it's been 2 weeks, a week and a half since he's been injured, so it's probably good. But if he would have Tommy John or something, I mean, the way Tommy John is now and how pitchers bounce back and seem to be better from it most of the time, I mean, and he just signed a 6-year deal, probably better that he gets it his first year than like his third year at age 34, 35. So, anyway, hopefully that's just nightmares swirling around my brain. and we don't have to worry about that. And it's just a forearm strain. He'll be back hopefully by May. So the next little segment, so there's the injury problem. So my next little segment about the Yankees, I'll be talking about the youth and how good some of these youngsters are doing. They're killing it right now. Yeah, so let's talk about these kids, man. They're, gosh, it's like you see, my lifetime. Like I watch other teams have these prospects. Maybe they might be 19, 20. Maybe they might be 23, 24, but they're prospects in their minor league camp, or not minor league, sorry, their major league camp and spring training, and they're just going off, they're just making a huge impression. Then they either make it up to the roster right away, or the organization for the most part would usually do keep them down in AAA for like 2 weeks and then bring them up because of service time manipulation. But it's so fun to see the Yankees let these top prospects into camp and let them eat, let them go, let them ball out. With Anthony Volpe and Jason Dominguez. It is refreshing to see, because usually you don't get that with the Yankees. The Yankees, Brian Cashman seems to be a firm believer in you have to conquer, single A. You got to conquer high A. You got to conquer double A. You got to conquer triple A, and then you can get to the majors. But I feel like in the past that's held us back with so many prospects. Like, it's like Clint Frazier or Justice Sheffield or, trying to think of some other ones. But, and then there's plenty of instances where having them in AAA really worked, like Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, and Luis Severino, But you see all these other teams with these, quote-unquote generational talent prospects, or just really, really good prospects, and they just tear it up in AA, and they're like, all right, skip AAA, come up to the majors, let's get it. And I think that, and it definitely would differ for different prospects, of course, but I feel like sometimes AAA, because you have so many guys in AAA who are like quadruple A players, or like good enough to be on an MLB roster, but there's not enough room for them on the MLB roster, so they're just like AAA dudes for life. So you get some of those guys. And I just feel the mix there ends up, making these younger kids struggle. When they're facing a 26, 27-year-old pitcher. And I know that's what they would face in the major leagues. They're going to face aces on aces and talent, undeniable talent in the major leagues too. But I feel like going from AA and kids who tear it up in AA will be better off if you just let them jump to the MLB and see what they have. When their confidence is high, when they're feeling good, when they're seeing pitches well. So you bring them up to AAA and, and they go through a couple cold streaks in AAA, and then all of a sudden, that's something, they develop a bad habit while they're struggling. And then they're just stuck in AAA. Now that's just kind of me observing. It's not like I'm a scout or anything, and I go to a bunch of minor league games every single year. But I love it. I love to see it when kids just get called up from AA to the majors. Like, screw AAA, man. You're playing really well against pretty good talent in AA. Screw AAA. Get up here, and let's see what you got. Let's have some run. And I just want and I'm not saying they should call up Jason Dominguez to the MLB roster. He had a cup of coffee in AA after tearing it up in high A. But he's tearing it up again in spring right now, and like a good chunk of what he's doing is against legit MLB pitchers. It's not like he's doing all of his damage off guys just struggling to make a roster or non-roster invitees. He's done some of that, of course, because that's inevitable. But man, Dominguez, you can tell, you can see the hype, because I never watched any of his. I really don't watch prospects in the minors. I like see highlights of them and stuff, but I don't sit down and watch a Yankees Double-A unless there's no MLB on, and maybe by chance a Yankees minor league team is playing, and it's oh, okay, sure. I never get to see Yankees because minor league, it's the leagues are geographically aligned, so all of the Yankees minor league teams are in the East, so it's not like they're going to come play the Iowa Cubs or the Wichita Wind Surge or whatever out here in the Midwest. So I never get to see these prospects play. But I mean, I got to see Javi Baez play and Anthony Rizzo, Kyle Schwarber play in Iowa when they played for the Iowa Cubs. But man, I want him. But man, Anthony Volpe too, man. I want to see him on the opening day roster. I do. But at the same time, I don't want them to call him up to the opening day roster and have him be a bench player. That just doesn't make any sense, which is what would happen if they called him up. So that's why it's just inevitable, unless he's our starting shortstop opening day, it's inevitable he's going to start the season in AAA because it doesn't make sense to have him be a bench player or a rotational player. He needs consistent at-bats, for his development. And, I mean, he's outplaying Peraza. He's outplaying IKF right now in all facets, really. I mean, Peraza's done good on defense. I mean, IKF's made some errors, of course, and it looks like they're going to shift IKF to a utility player, which is what they should have done midway through last year and should have promoted Peraza last year in July when he was raking in AAA. But that just makes too much sense, so they rolled with IKF and then had him start most of the playoff games at shortstop. Oh, man. That was frustrating. And seriously, everything about IKF is awesome other than the fact that the Yankees have really screwed him over. Making him, he's supposed to be a stopgap shortstop. But when Peraza was ready to make the jump to the major leagues midway through last year, they didn't call him up until September. And they stuck with IKF, even though IKF's defensive struggles were on display for everybody. And they kept trying to hide it, saying that his defensive run saves were high. IKF left to right as a defender is actually pretty good, but he cannot field a ground ball straight at him. And, that's kind of happens a lot in the majors. But everything about that guy, his work ethic, his attitude, his quotes to the media, I think everybody in the clubhouse likes him. Obviously, I'm not in the clubhouse, I don't know. But everything about him screams Yankee, screams that, he's a good piece for this team. But the fact that the Yankees screw him over by, first of all, putting him at shortstop, in which he won his Gold Glove as a third baseman, first off. And then the fact that he's not a defensive first shortstop, so, okay, what does he do with the bat? Well, he's a slappy hitter, doesn't really get on base, doesn't hit for power, which is fine if he plays defense well, but he doesn't really, and he's hurting us playing defense. And then he goes, because he cares, obviously. It's not like he doesn't care. He goes to the coaching staff and asks for help, and they're like, no, you're doing fine. It's like the Yankees as an organization has screwed that guy, and then they go out and sign him to a $6 million deal this offseason. And now he's going to be a utility man. So we're paying a utility man $6 million. Well, most utility men are like veterans, and they're making the league minimum or like $2-3 million at tops. Like Marwin Gonzalez was our utility man last year, and he's making the veteran minimum. It's like $575K. So now we're going to be paying IKF to play, one out of every 3 games or so? Sevy's getting hit hard again. I'm watching a Yankees-Phillies spring training game right now. Like Sevy's getting hit hard again in the first inning. He'll figure it out, hopefully. I mean, it was just a good piece of hitting by Castellanos. Probably wanted that pitch a little more lower, but the thing with Volpe, I mean, yeah, he's not, unless he's our starting shortstop opening day, which would be cool. But then, that would mean Peraza would have to start the year in AAA. There's just not a world where they're both on the opening day roster because they both need, consistent at bats. So like if you rotate them, and give them rotate them every day or whatever, have Volpe play 2 out of every 3 or Peraza play 2 out of every 3. It's just not, it's just not going to work. Peraza was one of the guys who went yard yesterday, which is good to see because he's kind of been struggling hitting this season or this spring. But it would be damn cool to see Jason Dominguez on opening day at 20 years old. It'd be a very un-Yankee thing to do, just the way they've handled prospects in the past. But man, the way he's raking right now, just crushing baseballs, like this sound that the ball coming off his bat makes is just, or the sound this bat makes when the ball comes off is just incredible. And the shots he's just, and he hit his first home run was from the right side. It's just a vicious, quick, super fast bat speed swing, man. And he's an athlete, so it's not like his defense was ever going to be an issue. He's got a solid arm. He's an athlete. He's got speed, and he's built like a 25-year-old. At age 20, he was built like a 24. He was built like a 25-year-old when he was 16 when we signed him. So yeah, I think his body's ready for the wear and tear of a major league season and everything. But they'll probably start him in AA or AAA this year. I would assume AA because he only played like 10 games at the end of the year in AA or something like that. So, we'll have to see with him. I'd love it, absolutely love if they just said screw it. Let's give him a month in the majors until somebody comes back from have him in the majors until Bader comes back. But we also have Willie Calhoun and Rafael Ortega in camp as non-roster invitees who've been hitting the ball pretty well, and Ortega can play center field. And Calhoun's not a good defender, but he's just been raking, so I don't know. I'd be fine. Oh, geez, they're taking Sevy out right away. They'll probably put him back in the second inning, but he's getting knocked around a bit. Yeah, they'll put him back out in the second inning. That's what they've been doing in spring training this year. Like if a pitcher gets into trouble, instead of having him labor through trouble, they'll take him out, have a reliever finish the inning, then put the starter back in the next inning to keep getting his work in. So it's I like that. You're actually able to do that in high school now. You can take a pitcher out and then put him back in later in the game. As long as he didn't exceed his pitch count or anything. Should say they do that in Iowa high school. I don't know if they do it everywhere else. But yeah, I think with the opening day lineup, barring any more injuries, and as long as Trevi's back healthy, ready to roll, looking like Trevi at catcher, Rizzo at first, obviously. That's set in stone. But I think probably Glaber at second, hopefully Peraza at short, or Volpe, one of the two. One of the two kids better be at short. If IKF's at short to start the season, I might drive to New York and just, I don't know, have a stern talking with Brian Cashman. I probably wouldn't be able to get to him. But, it's besides the point. So one of the two kids at shortstop. Third base, obviously going to be Donaldson. No matter what, it's going to be Donaldson at third base. Center field, probably Aaron Judge. Left field, Aaron Hicks probably. Hopefully Oswaldo Cabrera, but probably not. Probably Aaron Hicks. And then Stanton in right field. And LeMahieu at DH. Or LeMahieu at second and Glaber at DH. That's actually probably what it would be. LeMahieu at second, Glaber at DH. And then our starting rotation, probably going to be what was supposed to be the best starting rotation in the bigs, like 2 months ago before injuries happened, is going to be Garrett Cole, Luis Severino, Domingo Herman, Clark Schmidt, and Nestor Cortez, which is still, pretty solid. I don't like, there's kind of been, I don't know, this, obviously Herman's had his troubles off the field and in the clubhouse and different things. Obviously, hit his wife in public at like CC Sabathia's gala or something. It's not good at all. And he deserved the suspension he got. But I feel like people just put him, as a baseball player, in such negative light because of that and hate on him so much. And, like, I get it. I understand. I mean, domestic violence should not be condoned whatsoever. I mean, and to avoid repeat offenses, they should go to jail, in my opinion. But it's just funny what talent gets you in sports, and it's really sad, of course. But, like, I mean, talk about, like, Tyreek Hill getting no punishment for anything he did. And I'm a Chiefs fan, so, like, and then Aroldis Chapman, like, they never seem to talk about, like, Aroldis Chapman had a 30-game suspension for it. Julio Urias has had a suspension for it. It's like, oh, they're great, so let's forget about it right away. Deshaun Watson, oh my goodness. But anyway, Domingo Herman he sat down for an interview, talked about how much learning he's had to do. It's like, yeah, no shit, don't hit women, dude, especially your wife, come on. But it's talked about how much he's had to grow, obviously. But, like, when he pitched for the Yankees last year, he was good. Like, he was their starter for 13 or 14 games started. And, he outdueled Max Scherzer one of the game and pitched like a shutout into the 8th inning. Like, when Herman's stuff is clicking, he's a really good pitcher. He's just not consistent enough. That's why he's a 4 or a 5 starter at best. So I'm fine with him being in our rotation. I trust him more than Frankie Montas from what I've seen from Montas as a Yankee, And of course, Montas admitted he wasn't 100% or healthy, remotely healthy when the Yankees traded for him, so that's great. Good scouting there, Cashman. But man, it's and Clark Schmidt, I'm excited about. I also would like to see Davy Garcia get another shot, but I don't know. They might be transitioning him to like a reliever because he struggled so much in AAA last year. But I like to see Davey get a shot too. But I'm excited to see if Clark Schmidt can kind of stick as a starter. And of course, once Rodon comes back, since Schmidt has minor league options, we'll probably see. The Phillies are just taking it to the Yanks right now. We'll probably see Schmidt be the first one sent down when people start coming back from injuries, pitchers. But our bullpens should still be good. I mean, Canley's hurt. Trevino's also hurt. I didn't even talk about those two. So that stinks. But I think we have enough young, talented arms to fill in for them until they come back. And we still have Clay Holmes, Mike King, and Wandy Peralta at the back end. And those dudes are just nasty, and they're great, and they're going to be great. And then Ron Marinaccio's nasty. Then some of the young guys, let's say, Giovanni Brito, Matt Crook. Oh, yeah, Albert Abreu's going to be on there. He's out of options, and they love Albert Abreu. They just refused. So he'll be on their roster, too. I'm trying to think of someone. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Obvious. Ryan Weber will probably be on the opening day roster. But I think that our back end of the bullpens, our bullpen will hold up until we get more healthy. Confident in that. And it'll be interesting to see what young arms make it to kind of help replace Canely and Trevino for now. But with our current roster and our schedule to start the year, our schedule's not crazy to start the year. Not a lot of AL East opponents to start the year. But, I mean, I could see us falling to third or fourth in division as we get through April, especially if they kind of treat it as like extended spring training like they did last year. I hope they don't. I hope they just like let Cole ride and let Nestor ride and everything. Like, just get after it, But who knows? Anyway, that's all I have for today. I probably could have talked more about things with the Yankees, but probably 35 minutes is enough for now. I'm going to start coming out with these Yankee ones more often as the season goes along. I'm not going to say weekly. I definitely won't make that commitment, but I think I should easily be able to make it monthly about the Yankees. But if I can make it like every 2 weeks, like 20, 30-minute episodes or whatever you want to call them, videos, recordings. But thanks for listening if you did. Appreciate it. All right, so some closing thoughts on Iowa State's basketball season. I will wait till the next one to talk about kind of the off season of what's been going on for Iowa State football and kind of previewing what's next there. Because, I'm such an expert on that. But yeah, this will just be kind of my closing thoughts on Iowa and Iowa State's basketball seasons this year, because they both are now out of the NCAA tournament in just beautiful fashion, both ways. Today, so Iowa State just finished their game, and Iowa lost last night. I'm recording this on March 17th. This section. Well, as far as Iowa goes, really roller coaster of a year. I mean, started off the season, Chris Murray putting up Keegan Murray numbers. Had a couple nice wins. Then went through a tough stretch at the end of the non-con and at the beginning of the conference season, jumping out to a stellar 0-3 showing in conference following a just terrible loss to Eastern Illinois, one of the worst losses in college basketball history, if not the worst, at home. Just crazy. Had a crazy win over Indiana where they were down by 21. Came all the way back to beat them. And then had another, and that was a must-win game. And then they played Michigan State about, third week of February. So another kind of must-win game for them. And they come back down. They were down 13, I think, with a minute and a half to go, and they came all the way back and won that game. That was crazy. But then all they had to do to secure the 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament was beat Nebraska on their home court, because they're coming off a big win on the road, just random ass kicking of Indiana at what the fuck is that place called? Assembly Hall? No, that's not right. Gosh, I should know this. Oh, I was right. Assembly Hall. Simon Scott. That wild win out of nowhere. And all they had to do was beat Nebraska. And old Freddie Hoiberg came into Iowa City and did what he did many times as the Iowa State head coach and beat Iowa. And so we dropped all the way to a 5 seed, lost to 13 seed Ohio State, because why not in the Big Ten tournament. And then finished with a stellar showing against Auburn, another slumping team. We faced two slumping teams in March, okay, and we lost to both of them. It's just, it's frustrating, but, I'm kind of used to it now. That the fact, I thought maybe the Hawks, maybe Fran McCaffrey as a coach kind of got over that hump last year when he won Big Ten tournament, but then we went out and lost to 12-seeded Richmond in the first round, and they go and get just and think, well, maybe they're a good team, maybe they're going to go on a run. No, they just get blitzed by Providence in the second round last year. And then this year, we face an Auburn team that was 4-9 in their last 13 games, who are a terrible three-point shooting team. Well, leave it to Iowa to let them hit 8 threes and shoot 36% from out there and outshoot Iowa, because Iowa didn't even make a three-pointer to the second half. It's like, I don't get it. I just don't. I don't understand it. But I'm used to the hurt March Madness anymore with Fran McCaffrey. I would think maybe after this year especially, maybe he takes a look back at a nice overview of his coaching philosophy and how he wants to do things and how he wants to recruit players. And change some things. It's great. Iowa's made 4 straight tournaments, which they're one of 10 teams to do so, but they haven't gotten a run on any of them. I think we made it to the second round in 2 of them. So we beat the 2 games we won are Temple and Davidson, I think. So I don't know. I'm trying to think here. Iowa always has stellar forward play. It seems like stellar wing play. You look at the Keegan and Chris Murray, Jared Utah, Aaron White, Peter Jock, that kind of guard forward / position. Always, he seems, McCaffrey is a great player development coach. And but for whatever reason, he just can't recruit, develop defenders. Just look at all these stud players he's had. Even Keegan and Chris Murray are probably the most athletic, stellar wings he's had as a coach. Would seem to have the best shot at being elite defenders, and they're not elite defenders. They get steals and blocks because of their athleticism and length, but they're definitely not considered elite defenders. Luka Garza was never considered an elite defender by any means. Aaron White, Jared Utah, not considered elite defenders either, or maybe even good defenders. Peter Jock wasn't. Peter Jock was okay on defense. But once again, it's just I think he's just got to take a step back and look at what he's doing to develop these kids, what he's doing in recruiting, and try and just change it up a bit. Because, obviously, we're just to take the program to the next level. To take a program to the Sweet 16, you got to play some sort of defense. And I don't think, like, I can't even remember. I'm trying to think of the last, like, actually really good guard that Iowa's had. Like, like a, like Mike Giselle was good, or Giselle, but he's just kind of solid. I think Tony Perkins can develop into that, and I think Fran's done a good job developing Tony Perkins, but doesn't have a good 3-point shot. And then like Jordan Bohannon, that was like basically all he had. He did. Bohannon did a good job taking care of the ball, but gosh, and who knows who I will lose? Like DeSante Bowen, the freshman, speedy. I've seen him hit a few shots. Josh Dix, shown flashes, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to develop into really good guards. We need them to. Hopefully they stick around. Hopefully they don't transfer. Hopefully Fred McCaffrey hits the transfer portal, find some impact guards that can defend and that can hit 3-pointers consistently. Aaron Eulis, Tony Perkins, Josh Dix, and Sante Bowen, they definitely weren't good 3-point shooters by any means. But I don't know. McCaffrey hasn't changed it yet, so I don't think he'll change his philosophy. And then you just kind of hope that some of these players he brings in, some of these players develop into good defenders. That's all you can hope for. Because instead, it's just going to seem every single year I was going to get to March and not be able to get very far. Auburn's not a good team. They're not. Maybe they go on a run. They do have a good coach. That's not a very good team. Like, if they didn't hit 8 threes, they would lose. And I don't think they're going to shoot that well against Houston. Houston's a much better defensive team than Iowa. Even if Houston doesn't have Marcus Sasser. So that's that for the Hawkeyes. I guess I did go on for a little while about them, but that's it for the Hawkeyes. They need to play defense. Hopefully Fran hits the transfer portal, gets some guards who can play defense and can shoot the 3 better. Tony P's awesome. I love Tony Perkins, but he's super streaky. And definitely more of a combo guard than he is a true point guard. All right, so as far as Iowa State goes, they also kind of had a roller coaster of a year. They were on top of the world, and then Iowa beat the shit out of them, and they kind of came crashing down a bit, and then they bounced back and had a great start to conference season. Cal Schur and Caleb Grill couldn't miss. And then tough end of the conference season. Grill gets dismissed from the team. Then they upset Baylor 2 times in a row. That's a really hard thing to do, and that's a good team. And I think Baylor is going to make a run in the tournament. I could be wrong, obviously. My bracket's not looking too great. But I don't think Iowa State fans. I think obviously they have a right to be frustrated, especially after the performance today. But it's not going to be like indicative of the program moving forward. I think it's just the beginning for the Cyclones. I think everybody knows that Otzelberger's got some freaking stud recruits coming in the next 2 seasons, and I think the style of play is going to change, and you're going to see a big jump in offensive numbers. I mean, Taman Lipsey with like better and more consistent shooters around him will be even better, and he was a stud this year. I think as the season went along and people saw watch tape of him more, they found we're able to game plan better for him. But as a freshman in the best conference in basketball, man, he played awesome. And he was great. And I think you get more athletes and more shooters around him, he's going to be even better. He's going to be flirting with freaking triple-doubles all the time. He's a stat stuffer already as a freshman. And I think for him, personally, he just needs to improve his outside shot. I think that's pretty obvious. And if he can do that, it's going to open up everything even more. So I think as these new wings and athletic wings and big-time recruits come in the next 2 seasons for Iowa State, I think Lipsey is still the key to really make that team to give that team a Big 12 championship. I think because he's got it right now. He's such a stud right now. But if he improves his 3-point shot, gets to be at least a somewhat consistent, a 35% shooter, and then teams have to worry about him shooting that. Pump fake, dribble drive, kick it out, 3-pointer, and you get those athletes and those new recruits. And TJ Otzelberger, he's gonna hit the transfer portal too again, because he's gonna have some departing seniors this year, and fill in the wings and probably wants to get some more shooters, because at South Dakota State he had one of the best offenses in the country. He played this way with this group of players because this was the way this group of players was going to win, and because he's a good coach, and he adjusted how he coached them, for them to be the most successful. This is how he needed to have a grinded out defensive first team with this group of players. Going forward, get more athleticism, more shooting into that team. They're I think Iowa State is in for a run of stellar success under TJ Otzelberger. I think when you look at the body of work and at the end of the year between the two programs, Iowa and Iowa State, I guess you look at the full season, it kind of pretty similar. Both teams kind of had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and first round exits out of March Madness. Iowa State did, get one win in the Big 12 tournament, and there, Iowa State's usually pretty good in the Big 12 tournament anyway. So, but if you look at the programs as a whole moving forward, Iowa State's with Otzelberger, with the recruiting classes he has coming in, and Otzelberger's ability to hit the transfer portal really well, Iowa State's in a much better spot moving forward. I think that's easy to see. Iowa's got Fran locked up to 2027, and Lord knows Gary Barta, probably will give him an extension or something. I don't know, even though he's still under contract through 2027. Give him some ridiculous 5-year extension tacked on to his already extended contract like he did with Kirk Ferentz, because why not? Because he's a dummy. Gary Barta's a dummy. But anyways, I think the sky's going to be the limit for Iowa State. I think moving forward, I think they're really, really going to be on the same level. They have the potential to get to the same level as Kansas. With Fred Hoiberg, he coaches a lot like Fran McCaffrey, but better. It's like he does the same things as Fran McCaffrey, but does it better, kind of. And with Steve Prohm was able to get better recruits year in and year out, better recruiting classes than Fred Hoiberg, but for whatever reason wasn't able to put them together. um, as a coach and get him. I don't know. I don't really know exactly what happened with those Prom teams. He had a good start with some of the Hoiberg layover and then some of his recruits that came in, like, Halliburton and Horton Tucker, Wigington, some of those kind of studs that played well enough for them to have some success. But Otzelberger, he's the guy that's going to, really take Iowa State to the next level. Perennial top 20 team, I think. Perennial threat to go to the Sweet 16 or deeper. He did it last year with that team, which is crazy. And there was potential to do it with this team too. They didn't have the Isaiah Brockington. They needed an Isaiah Brockington or somebody to go crazy like Tyrese Hunter did at the end of the season last year. And obviously, when you shoot 23% from the field, that's one player's not going to save you. Anyway, that's my kind of analysis on the Iowa State season. But yeah, I think both the programs moving forward, Iowa State is in a much better position. And if Drake can hold on to DeVries as their head coach, they're in a better position than Iowa. I think Iowa just has a ceiling. It's kind of like their football team. They just got a ceiling. So, yeah. All right, for my final segment of this podcast of mine, my Untitled podcast, I'm going to talk about something I've been wanting to talk about since I had this idea to, blabber on about sports and talk to my computer microphone. And this is about my alma mater, Briarcliff, their baseball team. And they're enjoying a very nice start to the season. They're 12-4. All of their losses are to ranked teams. They got swept by Bellevue, who's always good, always a top 25 team. And then they lost by 10 to LSU Shreveport. Now I wasn't able to watch that game. I haven't been able to watch a lot this year, sadly. I'm hoping I can tune in a little bit this weekend. It's just I work baseball games for WSU, and so I don't always get to tune in to some of these games, and I want to. And sometimes the streams suck, and you can't even really tell what's going on if they don't have a play-by-play person. So just have a play-by-play person. It's not that hard. Just got to say, okay, this person's up to bat. This is what happened. Like, bare minimum, really. Don't have to be good at it. I just want to know what's going on. So, I don't have to. I can have it. Anyway, move on. So, they lost to LSU Shreveport. That was their last game that they played on their spring break trip. And I looked at the box score, saw that the starter, who was a freshman, whom I have not met or do not know, had 6 unearned runs. So that that makes you think right away, wow, well, you only lost. So you scored 7 on Shreveport, and then there was 6 unearned runs. Could have been a whole entire different ball game. I'm sure Corby and the boys feel the same way. But the team's hitting the ball well. They are pitching very well, which I was definitely wondering how the pitching would be, as they were returning established pitchers from last year. They're basically returning 5 guys. In Brett Sitzman, stellar freshman from last year, having another stellar season this year. Ryan Riddle, he kind of had a slow start, but he's got great breaking ball, some decent velo. He's got this crazy delivery, which is just fun to watch. And not fun to face. He's coming back this year. And Austin Carter, my good buddy Austin. He came in with me as a freshman. He's a stud, and he's one of the best. Kind of a Swiss Army knife, really. I mean, you can use him to start. He mostly gets used as the bullpen in long situations. He's closed games before. He can do a little bit of everything. He's enjoying a really nice start to this season. Rylan Amold, really good guy. Long and lanky, just like me. Except he, can actually pitch, unlike me. And he had a very up and down season, but he's got some good stuff. Just working on consistency, of course, and that's pitching in general. And then Alex Kramer was the other one. Had pitched some really nice innings out of the bullpen last year. And then there's Kyler Steinborn, who has plenty of experience and just electric stuff, but he's battled through a lot of injuries last year and kind of over the course of his career. So, yeah, pitching was a big question mark, but it has been good. Early season returns has been good as they head into conference play at 12-4. It's not just the offense that's been carrying. They've had some low scoring game where the pitching came up big. I mean, Brett Sitzman threw a complete game shutout the other day. He's got a 2.74 ERA, a whip just over 1, just stellar numbers. I mean, he was phenomenal as a freshman too. And then Ryan Riddle, pretty solid numbers. He's got a 2-0 record in 4 starts, 4.34 ERA. His whip's high because he does walk people, but he also gets his fair share of strikeouts as well, as he's K'd. 24 in 18 innings. That's just what happens when you're nasty sometimes. Now the two other starters, both surprises. Steinborn, he's healthy, and he has been doing pretty darn well to start the year off. 4 appearances, 3 starts, 3-1 record, terrific. 19 innings, that's really good too. 4.66 ERA and a really solid whip at 1.34, because something he can also struggle with in the past was throwing strikes, and he's done 5 walks on the year. He's done a really good job of that, cutting down on those walks. Pretty good batting average against at 266, and he also, like I said, electric stuff. He can hit that low 90s with the fastball, solid breaking ball, and then it's got nasty splitter. And of course, I haven't been there this year, so maybe he added more to his repertoire. And he's racked up 25 strikeouts in 19 innings. And 25-5, so 5-to-1 K to walk ratio for him, phenomenal. And if he keeps that up, that's going to be freaking key. And then, obviously, the biggest prize, especially to me, Matthew Himileski. He's been a stud this year. 4.09 ERA, 1.36 whip, 3-1 record in 4 starts, 22 innings pitched, 20 strikeouts. I talked to another good buddy of mine whom I lived with as well. Lived with Austin last year. I lived with Siler Melvin last year. I talked to him a little bit here and there. Like to get him and Austin both on the show. I called this a show. That's a stretch to call this a show, my bad. But on this recording of voices. And they've been giving me some insight on the team a little bit, and talking about. I was surprised to hear Himileski was going to be one of the starters. I was like, oh, really? And so he's made some great strides. Obviously, put in the off-season work and had a great fall. Because I remember last year, nowhere near being able to do what he's doing right now. So that's just a good testament of hard work. And that's big. I know. He threw hard. He threw hard, and his breaking ball looked good at times. But good to see it's been working out for him early on. And then Austin Carter, talked about him a little bit. Stellar start to the year. 4 appearances, 8 innings, 1.13 ERA, just 5 hits given up. Looking nice. And then the freshman Carter Short, pretty sure he's like, is he a Remsen kid? Because, they just breed baseball players in Remsen. Of all places. I'll find him here in a second. Pretty sure he's the Remsen kid. Yeah, Remsen, Iowa, naturally. That's so crazy. But he's apparently a young stallion, young stud in the making. And so far, so good for the freshman. He's the one who started against Shreveport the other day, had 600 runs. So you wonder what maybe that start would have looked like if not for whatever error happened. Because I didn't watch it. Like I said, I didn't watch the game, so I don't really know the context of everything. So I'm not gonna try and oust anybody there. But 8 1/3 innings, just 7 hits, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts. Pretty nice start for a true freshman. Then some other pitchers, obviously Amold, McWilliams, old Nelly Nasty Cone has gotten some innings this year. It's good to see him. 1 inning this year. I thought I saw he got into another game. My bad. And Ryan Pearson has gotten 2/3 of an inning. I'm sure they'll use him some more. He's got a nasty breaking ball. And Alex Kramer, he's got some good stuff too. Looks like he's had a little bit of a rough start to the year, but he pitched really well last year, so I'm sure he'll get things evened out. They'll need him during this conference season when things get tough. Need guys with experience out of the pen. Batting's been really good. I mean, in the fact that Pookie Allen and Trey Hunt, have gotten off to slow starts in this non-conference season. The fact that the rest of the lineup has picked up the slack for those guys because those guys are terrific hitters. A lot of power, both those dudes. So far, Walter, Trey, I'll call him Walter and Trey, that's my bad, but I called him both last year, so. While broadcasting, too. It was probably confused the listeners. But he has a homer this year, 200 on base percentage. Those numbers will go up. Dude's too good of a hitter to stay down that long, and he'll get going. And same thing with Pookie. He's got a homer and a double, 308 on base, 343 slugging. Those numbers are also going to go up. And Cam Reamer also was having a slow start to the season, but he's bounced back. Now he's getting those numbers back up to kind of some of those numbers are getting closer to the numbers he put up in that stellar freshman season a year ago. He's now up to batting .326, and he's got a bomb now on the season. Now, probably the biggest surprise would be Trey Rogers. He's having a hell of a year. 388 batting average, 1.095 OPS, 2 homers, 21 RBI, which is pretty insane in 16 games. And Quentin Evers, also love to see this kid. He's been going off as well. 405 batting average, 3 bombs, 2 doubles, 15 RBI. Fires me the frick up, 1238 OPS. Because he definitely went through his slump last year, and you just were waiting. It was every single game just waiting for him to pop out of that slump. Because we all saw him in the fall just he had a phenomenal fall last season, just raking. It's like he couldn't get out, pretty much, And anybody who's played baseball, especially if you played past high school, you know how mentally tough baseball can be. And he's he went through last year, but he's battled through that. I know the guy. He definitely, him and his brother, definitely put a lot of work in this off season. Got after it. And Quentin's out here balling, Mr. Q, balling, crushing it right now. And then Connor Lang, the machine, just does what he does, but even better at it this year. 440 batting average. Doesn't have a bomb yet, but he's got 8 doubles, man. 13 RBI, 600 slugging, 569 on base. He's been raking since his freshman year, man. The guy is a machine at the plate. Quick, compact swing, and I'm sure he'll run into some homers this year. But yeah, the offense has been phenomenal. You've had some guys also come in doing some part-time play off the bench, like Matthew Delgado, just, casual 345 batting average off the bench. And, Matthew Delgado, by the way, doesn't get paid for this shit, but he is the best social media guy who's also a player in college baseball. And I would say probably the best social media guy in general in the NAIA, for sure. I mean, I don't do a lot of research on that kind of stuff, but I'm just going to assume, because he's awesome. He gets Briarcliff Baseball social media accounts just looking phenomenal. He does great videos and cut-ups of series and previews and everything, and player interviews after the game. He does it all. Dude is a machine at that, and he can rake, by the way. He can rake at the plate. He's got a lot on his plate, and he does a great job of doing everything he does, being a student, being a ball player, and being a social media genius. So he's asked to do a lot of stuff. He does it all very well. Easton Cone started a lot of games at shortstop for the Chargers last year. Has 2 games started this year, 13 games. Numbers are looking pretty good for him. 273 batting average, 429 on base. That's good, And it's been hit by a pitch twice. Oh, I see. All right. That's all right. Keep getting hit by pitches, man. But he's got some nice numbers to start the year off. Just 11 at-bats, of course, but he's been staying ready. Same thing as Siler Melvin. Saw he hit a bomb yesterday. Really proud of that kid. I know that had to have felt really good for him. And so he's another guy that has to stay ready off the bench for pinch hits, especially being left-handed, step in when he needs to. And old Justin Remar, I've seen he's been getting some run in the infield a little bit here and there, and he's got 1 at bat so far, 1 walk. Nice. Yeah, by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, I've just been kind of looking off the stat sheet and drawing my conclusions from there. I'm really hoping to watch some more games as the season goes. Tune into some more games as the season goes along. I haven't been doing a good job of that so far with my schedule the way it is. But yeah, I'm going to try and keep doing that so I can give you a little more insight on the games than just reading off the stat sheets. But they have a big series. Hopefully they're able to play it. I think they will be, but cold temperatures plus snow and stuff on the ground in Sioux City. But they got a huge series coming up this weekend. I know it got pushed back to like Sunday and Monday instead of Saturday, Sunday. They're playing Mount Marty. Frickin' Mount Marty, man. 17-4, a really good team, well coached. They got a couple of studs on that, just absolute studs on that team. But seems like a good year to take 3 out of 4 against them, hopefully. But it's a really big series for both teams, because the thing is, in college baseball, season's so short. If you slump at all during the season, you better hope it's really early in the season, like in the non-con. Because if you slump at all during the conference season, you lose any shot at keeping up with Doane, Concordia, Mount Marty for that conference. This is a huge series. If Briarcliff can get 2, that would be sublime. And if they get any more than 2, that would be phenomenal. So, boys will be ready to play this weekend. Definitely going to be rooting for them. Going to try and tune into some of the games. Hopefully they're able to play them. And go Chargers.